Sophia Hayes had made some questionable decisions in her life, but stealing a Mafia boss's boat at midnight was definitely making the top 5. And technically, she hadn't stolen it. That was what she planned to tell herself. She had simply borrowed it, without permission, without telling anyone. And, unfortunately, without checking whether the owner was still on board. The problem was, Sophia didn't know that last part yet. All she knew was that she had finally escaped the most exhausting charity gala of her life. For 6 straight hours, she had smiled at wealthy strangers, solved problems nobody had technically hired her to solve, and prevented at least 3 separate disasters from becoming headlines. A woman had lost a diamond bracelet and accused the florist. A man had spilled red wine down the front of his own white tuxedo and somehow decided the catering staff had sabotaged him. And one elderly billionaire had approached Sophia with a completely serious expression and asked whether she could make the lake look more romantic. Sophia had stared at him, 3 seconds, maybe 4. Then she'd smiled, because apparently, when you worked in luxury event planning, you were also expected to negotiate with water. By 11:40 p.m., Sophia had reached her limit. She slipped through the terrace doors, walked down toward the private dock, and finally breathed. The difference was immediate. Inside the mansion, everything had been noise, music, laughter, crystal glasses, perfume, people talking over people. Outside, there was nothing, only the soft movement of the lake, the occasional rustle of leaves, and the distant hum of the estate behind her. Sophia closed her eyes. For the first time that night, nobody was asking her for anything. No missing jewelry. No seating emergency. No billionaire with impossible requests. No crooked champagne glasses. Just silence. Then she opened her eyes and saw the boat. It rested at the end of the private dock. Black hull, silver trim, polished enough to reflect the moonlight. Rocco Valenti's boat. Sophia stared at it. She had noticed it earlier that afternoon. She had even wondered what it would feel like to drive something that expensive. Now, she was standing only a few feet away from it. The thought came quickly, almost innocently. 10 minutes, that's all. 10 minutes on the lake. She would take it around the cove. Feel the wind, come back, and nobody would ever know. A reasonable woman would have walked away. Sophia considered herself reasonable, usually. But tonight she was exhausted, and something about the water was pulling at a part of her she hadn't visited in years. She looked toward the mansion. Nobody was coming. The dock was empty. Security remained near the main entrance. Sophia looked back at the boat. 10 minutes. She stepped onto the dock. Her fingers touched the rope. She hesitated. Then, she untied it. The boat shifted gently. Sophia's heart jumped. She looked back. Still nobody. She stepped aboard. The boat rocked beneath her. She smiled. And then something happened that she hadn't expected. The moment her fingers wrapped around the steering wheel, the exhausted event planner disappeared. Her shoulders relaxed. Her breathing changed. Her eyes moved automatically toward the water. The controls, the gauges, the current, everything felt familiar. Too familiar. Memories came rushing back. Her father's old marina. Summer mornings. The smell of fuel. The sound of engines. Her father's hands guiding hers across a steering wheel. Easy. Don't fight the water. Listen, before you touch anything. Sophia swallowed. She hadn't thought about those memories in years. She turned the key. The engine came alive. A low vibration moved beneath her. Sophia's eyes widened. Then a grin slowly spread across her face.
"Oh,"
she whispered.
"this is nice."
She eased away from the dock. The estate began shrinking behind her. Sophia looked back once. Nothing. No guards, no shouting, no angry Rocco Valenti. She laughed softly. The wind caught her hair. She pushed the throttle forward. The boat accelerated. And suddenly, she wasn't tired anymore. She wasn't an event coordinator. She wasn't the woman who had spent 6 hours solving everybody else's problems. She was simply Sophia, free. The lake opened before her. Moonlight scattered across the water. She laughed again. She hadn't realized how much she'd missed this. She hadn't realized how much she had missed herself. For several minutes, everything was perfect, until she heard something, a faint sound behind her. Sophia frowned. She turned slightly. Nothing. The rear deck looked empty. She shrugged. Probably the movement of the boat. She turned forward again. The engine hummed. The water rushed past. Sophia smiled. Then, a shadow moved behind her. She didn't see it. Not yet. A man stepped quietly from the rear of the boat. Rocco Valenti. White shirt. Dark trousers. Sleeves rolled to his forearms. His expression was calm, almost amused. He had been there longer than Sophia realized. He had watched her steal his boat. He had watched her start the engine, and most interestingly, he had watched her drive. She wasn't guessing. She wasn't nervous. She wasn't fumbling with the controls. She knew exactly what she was doing. Rocco folded his arms. For several seconds, he simply watched. Sophia was smiling. Actually smiling. Not the polite smile she'd worn at the gala, not the professional smile she'd given his guests. A real smile. Rocco had rarely seen it. He almost interrupted her, then decided not to. There was something strangely entertaining about seeing the woman who had spent the entire evening organizing everyone else, finally doing something completely irresponsible for herself. Sophia adjusted the wheel. Rocco stepped closer. Still nothing. She remained unaware. Then, he leaned forward. His voice came quietly from directly behind her. Going somewhere? Sophia froze. Completely. Her hands remained locked around the wheel. Her eyes widened. For 3 full seconds, she didn't move. Then she slowly turned. And there he was, Rocco Valenti, standing behind her, watching her. Calm as ever. Sophia's mouth opened, closed, opened again. Nothing. She looked at him, then the water, then the distant mansion, then back at him. Her expression asked everything. She was too shocked to say. "How long have you been there? Why didn't I hear you? Why are you so calm? And why, exactly, are you standing on your boat while I am driving it?" Rocco's expression barely changed. Sophia finally found her voice. "I can explain." One eyebrow rose. That was probably the worst possible opening, because Sophia didn't actually have an explanation. Not a good one. She had taken his boat. She was in the middle of the lake, and the Mafia boss, whose boat she'd borrowed without permission, was standing directly behind her. She looked toward the controls, then back at him. "I wasn't stealing it." Rocco said nothing. "I was borrowing it." Silence. Sophia swallowed. For 10 minutes. Rocco glanced toward the distant estate. Sophia followed his gaze. They had been gone considerably longer than 10 minutes. She sighed. "Okay, maybe 20. The corner of his mouth moved. Sophia narrowed her eyes. "You're enjoying this?" "Very much." She stared at him. That answer somehow made her more embarrassed. Rocco stepped toward the helm, but he didn't take the wheel. Instead, his eyes went to her hands, then the controls, then the wake behind the boat. Something changed in his expression. The amusement faded slightly. Curiosity replaced it. "You know how to drive?" Sophia didn't answer. She looked ahead. Rocco waited. Finally, she nodded. "My father taught me." That was all she said. But Rocco noticed the change in her face. He didn't push. Not yet. Instead, he stepped back. "Then keep going." Sophia looked at him. "What? You wanted to drive?" She stared. "You're not angry?" "I haven't decided." "That sounds threatening." "It should." Sophia almost smiled. Then, the engine changed. A faint hesitation. Barely noticeable. Sophia's smile disappeared. She listened. The engine hummed again. Then, a faint metallic clicking. Click, click, click. Her fingers tightened around the wheel. Rocco noticed immediately. What? Listen. The sound came again. Sophia reduced the throttle. The clicking continued. Her eyes moved toward the dashboard, then the water, then the rear. Something wasn't right. She knew that sound. Not from this boat, from another life, from another time, from standing beside her father while he taught her that an engine could warn you before it failed. Sophia's stomach tightened. She eased the throttle back. The engine stabilized. For a moment. Then, it coughed. The boat slowed. Rocco moved closer. Problem? Sophia didn't answer. She was listening. The engine coughed again. Then suddenly, the smooth hum disappeared. The boat drifted. Silence spread across the water. Sophia stared ahead. Rocco's expression hardened. The playful mood vanished. Sophia looked at him, and for the first time that night, there was real fear in her eyes. Because she knew boats, she knew engines, and she knew this wasn't normal. She opened the engine compartment. A few seconds later, she found it. A loosened component. Fresh marks. Someone had been inside. Someone had touched the engine. Sophia slowly stood. Rocco looked at her. Accident? She shook her head. No. How sure? Very. Rocco's eyes moved toward the dark shoreline. Sophia followed his gaze. The lake was enormous around them. The estate was now only a distant collection of lights. And suddenly, the beautiful night felt very different. Someone had prepared this boat. But for whom? Sophia looked at Rocco, and a frightening thought entered her mind. Maybe she hadn't stolen a boat tonight. Maybe she had accidentally stolen herself into a trap. Earlier that night, Sophia Hayes had already decided that rich people were exhausting. Not all of them, probably, but enough of them. The ballroom at Rocco Valenti's lakeside estate glittered beneath enormous crystal chandeliers. Every surface reflected light. Every table had been arranged perfectly. White roses, crystal glasses, silver cutlery, black and gold place cards. Everything had been planned, down to the smallest detail, which was precisely why Sophia knew something would go wrong. It always did. Luxury events were strange that way. The more money people spent, the more dramatic they became about tiny inconveniences. A guest had lost a diamond bracelet. Another had lost his temper. A third had apparently lost his sense of direction and spent 15 minutes searching for a bathroom that was less than 20 feet from where he'd been standing. Sophia handled all of it. She moved through the room with a tablet in one hand and an earpiece tucked discreetly into one ear. She smiled. She nodded. She redirected staff. She solved problems. She apologized for things she hadn't caused. At one point, a wealthy man had spilled red wine down his own white tuxedo. He stared at the stain, then looked at Sophia. She already knew what was coming. Miss Hayes. Sophia smiled. Yes? I believe your staff did this. Sophia looked at the man's hand, then at the glass, still resting inside it, then at the wine dripping onto his shoe. She looked back at him. Of course. She arranged for someone to clean the jacket. The man walked away satisfied. Sophia waited until he was gone, then whispered, "Miraculous. Another crisis. Another guest. Another request." By 10:45 p.m., Sophia's feet hurt. By 11:10, her patience had disappeared. By 11:21, she was considering whether unemployment might actually be peaceful. She glanced toward the ballroom. The champagne tower was still standing. The musicians were still playing. The guests were still smiling. And across the room, Rocco Valenti was watching her. Sophia had noticed him several times. She pretended she hadn't. That was becoming increasingly difficult. Rocco wasn't the type of man who needed to demand attention. He simply received it. People lowered their voices when he walked past. Security adjusted their positions without being told. Guests who had been laughing loudly suddenly became careful. He didn't appear interested in the party, yet somehow he knew everything happening inside it. Sophia wondered what it would be like to live like that, to walk into a room and have everyone immediately understand that you were the person in control. Then, she reminded herself, she had no interest in finding out. Rocco Valenti belonged to a world that made her uncomfortable. She belonged to spreadsheets, schedules, invoices, client requests, not men whose names made people whisper. Sophia turned away. Someone immediately approached. The West Terrace. She closed her eyes briefly. What happened? The floral arrangement. Sophia opened her eyes. What about it? It's leaning. She stared, then walked away. Apparently, the fate of civilization depended on flowers. By 11:35, the ballroom was finally beginning to empty. Sophia handed the final checklist to her assistant. Check the West Terrace one more time. Her assistant nodded. And the catering. Finished. The musicians. Packing. The guests. Leaving. Sophia smiled. Then we're alive. Her assistant laughed. Sophia looked toward the ballroom entrance. Rocco was gone. She didn't know why, but she felt slightly relieved. She gathered her things, then stopped. Beyond the glass doors, the lake waited. Sophia looked at it. Something about the water felt different tonight. Maybe it was the moonlight. Maybe it was the quiet. Or maybe she was simply exhausted enough to need somewhere nobody could find her. She stepped outside. The cool air touched her face. She closed her eyes. For a few seconds, she simply stood there. No music, no guests, no questions. Then she walked toward the railing. The lake stretched beyond the gardens. Dark, beautiful, peaceful. Sophia's thoughts drifted backward. Her father, the marina, summer, a small boat that had smelled permanently of fuel and old wood. Her father's hands on the wheel, his voice teaching her patience. She had been 12 the first time he'd let her steer. She remembered how proud she'd felt. She remembered the water beneath the hull. She remembered believing that nothing bad could ever happen as long as her father was beside her. Then he died, and everything changed. The marina was sold. The boat was sold. The keys disappeared. Sophia stopped going near the water, not because she hated it, because she loved it too much. Sometimes, grief didn't make you hate the things you lost. Sometimes, it made them impossible to touch. Sophia opened her eyes. The lake shimmered. Then she saw the boat, Rocco's boat. It rested at the private dock. Sophia stared. She knew she shouldn't. She absolutely knew she shouldn't. But the longer she looked, the more she remembered the girl she used to be. The girl who wasn't constantly trying to be responsible. The girl who didn't spend her life fixing everyone else's problems. The girl who loved the water. Sophia looked toward the mansion. Nobody was watching. Security was near the main entrance. The dock was empty. She looked back at the boat. 10 minutes. She would take it around the cove. Come back. Nobody would know. She descended the steps. Slowly. Her hand touched the rope. She hesitated, then untied it. The boat shifted. Sophia's heart jumped. She climbed aboard. The boat rocked gently. She smiled. She walked toward the helm. Her fingers touched the steering wheel, and immediately, her body remembered. She didn't need instructions. Didn't need to think. Her hands found the controls naturally. Her eyes moved toward the gauges. The water. The wind. Everything. Sophia swallowed. Then started the engine. The boat came alive. She laughed softly. This is nice. She eased away. The dock disappeared behind her. The mansion lights became smaller. Sophia looked back once. Nobody followed. She smiled, then turned toward the lake. The wind lifted her hair. She increased the speed. The boat responded. Sophia laughed. For the first time in years, she felt free. She didn't know that someone was watching from the shadows near the dock. Rocco Valenti had come down, expecting to take the boat out himself. He stopped when he saw Sophia. At first, he thought she was simply admiring it. Then she untied the rope. He stared. She climbed aboard, started the engine. and left. Rocco should have stopped her. Instead, he stood there for several seconds, amused. The woman who had spent the entire evening controlling an impossible event had just stolen his boat, without hesitation, without permission, without apparently realizing that the owner of said boat was standing 10 feet away. Rocco shook his head, then stepped aboard before she got too far. He stayed out of sight, not because he feared her, because he wanted to see what she would do, and what he saw surprised him. Sophia knew the boat. She didn't merely understand the basics. She was comfortable. Her posture changed. Her face changed. The woman he'd been watching all evening seemed to disappear. Something warmer replaced her. Something freer. Rocco watched, and for reasons he didn't fully understand, he didn't interrupt her. Not immediately. Sophia had no idea how long she had been on the water. 10 minutes had become 20. 20 had become something else. She didn't care. The lake was quiet. The mansion was distant, and she finally felt like herself. She adjusted the wheel. The boat moved smoothly. Sophia smiled. Then, Rocco spoke. Going somewhere? Her entire body froze. She turned and saw him, Rocco Valenti, standing behind her. Sophia's first thought was extremely unhelpful. Oh no. Her second thought was worse. Oh no! She looked at him, then at the water, then at the mansion, then back at him. There was no explanation that could make this situation respectable. She had taken his boat. She was driving it, and he had apparently been watching her do it. I can explain. Rocco's eyebrow lifted. Sophia immediately knew that was terrible. I wasn't stealing it. Silence. I was borrowing it. His expression remained unchanged. Without asking, Sophia nodded. Yes. And how long were you planning to borrow it? She glanced toward the mansion. 10 minutes. Rocco looked toward the distant lights. Sophia followed his gaze, then sighed. Okay, 20. The corner of his mouth moved. She noticed. You're enjoying this. Very much. Sophia shook her head. Of all the reactions she had imagined, that wasn't one of them. Rocco stepped closer. He didn't reach for the wheel. Instead, he looked at her hands. Sophia suddenly became aware of them. They were steady. Too steady, Rocco noticed. You know how to drive. It wasn't a question. Sophia looked toward the water. My father taught me. That was all. Rocco didn't immediately ask more. Something about that surprised her. Most people would have. He didn't. Instead, he looked toward the wake. You're good. Sophia glanced at him. Are you complimenting me? No. You are. I'll deny it. Sophia smiled. Then Rocco stepped back. Keep going. She stared. What? You wanted to drive. You're letting me. I'm already here. That doesn't answer the question. Rocco's expression barely changed. You seem happier. Sophia didn't know what to say to that. She looked forward. Maybe he was right. She continued. The boat moved across the lake. Rocco remained behind her, not too close, but close enough for Sophia to notice him. His presence, his breathing, the faint scent of his cologne. She focused harder on the water. That was safer. You're different out here, she said eventually. Rocco looked at her. How? You don't look like you're about to scare somebody. Give it time. Sophia laughed. Rocco smiled faintly. For several minutes, they simply traveled. No guards. No guests. No business. Just the lake. Sophia finally relaxed again. Rocco asked about her work. She explained how she'd started in small events. Weddings. Corporate dinners. Private parties. Eventually, larger events. She told him about the ridiculous requests clients made. Rocco listened. She told him about the billionaire who wanted the lake to look more romantic. Rocco's mouth twitched. Sophia noticed. You think that's funny? I think you agreed. I was being professional. You were thinking about throwing him in the lake. Sophia looked over her shoulder. How do you know that? You have a very expressive face. She gasped. I do not. You do. She laughed. The sound carried across the water. Rocco watched her. There was something about her laughter that seemed to make the night less heavy. He didn't remember the last time he'd simply sat on a boat and talked to someone without an agenda. Sophia didn't seem to want anything from him. That was rare, very rare. Then, the engine changed. Sophia noticed first. A faint vibration, a slight hesitation. Her smile disappeared. She reduced the throttle. Rocco immediately became alert. What? Listen! The engine hummed. Then, click, click, click. Sophia's fingers tightened around the wheel. She knew that sound. Not exactly, but enough. Rocco saw her expression. You know what that is? Something isn't right. She slowed the boat. The sound continued. Sophia listened carefully. Her father's lessons returned. Listen before you touch anything. She looked toward the dashboard, then the rear, then the water. I need to check something. Rocco followed. Sophia opened the engine compartment. At first, everything looked normal. Then she saw it. A fitting, loose. She touched it. Her fingers came away with a faint trace of fresh grease. Sophia stared. Rocco crouched beside her. What? She held it up. This shouldn't be loose. Could it have worked itself free? No. Her answer was immediate. Rocco's expression changed. How sure? Sophia looked at the mark. Very. She examined another component, then another. Something was wrong. Not catastrophic, not yet, but deliberate. She slowly stood. Someone had been inside the engine compartment. Rocco looked toward the dark lake. Sophia suddenly remembered something. Earlier, near the dock, someone had been standing beside the boat. She couldn't remember who. Not clearly, but someone. She looked at Rocco. Did anyone work on the boat today? Yes. Who? Several people. That wasn't reassuring. Sophia returned to the engine. She found another irregularity. A second component. Loosened. Again. Deliberately. Her stomach tightened. Rocco watched her. This was done on purpose. Sophia nodded. The engine coughed, then died. Silence. The boat drifted. Sophia stared ahead. Rocco stood beside her. The lake suddenly felt enormous. The mansion was now far away. The lights were tiny. Sophia checked her phone. 1 bar. Then none. Rocco checked his. Nothing. Sophia looked at him. This isn't good. No. For the first time since he'd appeared behind her, Rocco wasn't amused. He was thinking. Sophia could see it. The entire situation was changing in his mind. He wasn't simply the man whose boat had been stolen anymore. He was a man trying to understand why his boat had been sabotaged. And Sophia suddenly realized there might be something much bigger happening, something she had accidentally stepped into. The boat drifted silently. Sophia sat near the helm. Rocco stood beside her. Neither spoke for several seconds. The lake was calm. Too calm. Sophia hated that. Because calm water shouldn't feel threatening. Yet somehow, it did. She opened the engine compartment again. She examined what she could. Rocco watched. The woman who had been laughing minutes earlier had disappeared. Sophia's face was focused now. Serious. She traced the damaged components carefully. The sabotage wasn't crude. That was what bothered her. Someone hadn't simply damaged the engine. They had altered it in a way that would allow the boat to run normally until it was far enough from shore. Then, failure. Sophia looked at Rocco. This was designed to happen later. Rocco nodded slowly. How later? Far enough out. That answer was enough. Rocco looked toward the distant shoreline. The estate was barely visible. Sophia followed his gaze. She understood. If the engine had failed close to the dock, someone could have helped them. If it failed here, but Rocco reached for the radio. Nothing. He checked the emergency transmitter. Nothing. Sophia looked at him. Both? He nodded. She felt a chill. Rocco opened the emergency equipment compartment. The flares were gone. Sophia stared. They were removed. Rocco didn't answer. He was already checking the rest. The life jackets were there. The first aid kit was there. But the emergency equipment that would have made them easier to locate was missing. This wasn't one act of sabotage. It was preparation. Sophia slowly sat back. Someone really wanted this boat disabled. Rocco looked at her. Yes. Why? His expression hardened. That's what I'm trying to determine. Sophia looked across the lake. She tried to think logically. The boat belonged to Rocco. The sabotage had happened before tonight. The person who did it needed access. They needed to know when the boat would be used. They needed to know where Rocco was going. They needed patience. This wasn't random. Someone had planned it. Rocco's phone suddenly vibrated. Sophia looked at him. 1 bar. A message. Rocco read it. His face changed. Sophia noticed. What? He turned the screen toward her. A message from his security chief. Where are you? Rocco typed quickly. On the lake. Boat disabled. East side. He sent it. They waited. Seconds passed. Then the reply came. Stay where you are. We're coming. Rocco looked toward the shore. Sophia noticed something. You don't look relieved. I'm not. Why? Rocco showed her the message. Sophia read it again. She frowned. What? Rocco's eyes remained on the screen. They knew I was missing before I told them. Sophia's stomach tightened. She looked at him. How? Rocco didn't answer. The silence answered for him. Someone had been watching. Sophia looked toward the dark water. Nothing. Then, a light appeared. Far away. Small. Moving slowly. Sophia narrowed her eyes. Rocco. He turned. She pointed. The light moved across the lake. Closer. Slowly. A boat. Rocco stood. His entire posture changed. Sophia could feel the difference. This wasn't curiosity anymore. It was instinct. He was calculating distance, direction, speed, possibility. The approaching boat slowed. It didn't come closer. It simply remained there, watching. Sophia felt a chill. Who is that? I don't know. Can they see us? Probably. The boat remained still. Sophia moved closer to Rocco. Not because she wanted to. Because her body had decided before her mind could. Rocco noticed. He didn't comment. For several minutes, the distant boat watched them. Then, it turned and disappeared. Sophia let out a slow breath. Rocco didn't. He continued staring into the darkness. They wanted to confirm something. What? That we're stranded. Sophia swallowed. The words settled heavily. She looked at the engine, then the empty flare compartment, then the dead radio. Someone had prepared this, but they still didn't know who. Rocco finally spoke. I was supposed to take this boat tonight. Sophia turned. You? Yes. Alone? Yes. That changed everything. Sophia stared at him, then slowly looked back toward the lake. If she hadn't taken the boat, Rocco would have. If the sabotage had worked exactly as intended, he would have been stranded alone, far from shore, without communication, without emergency flares. And whoever was behind it would have known exactly where he was. Sophia's voice became quiet. They were targeting you. Rocco didn't deny it. He didn't need to. Sophia suddenly felt the weight of what she'd done. Her impulsive decision to escape the gala, her little 10-minute adventure, had accidentally changed the entire plan. Someone had expected Rocco Valenti. Instead, they got Sophia Hayes, and she had noticed the engine problem. Rocco looked at her. You may have saved my life. Sophia stared. I was stealing your boat. I know. That doesn't sound like saving. Tonight it does. Sophia didn't know how to respond. She looked away. Then, the engine compartment made a faint metallic sound. Both turned. Sophia frowned. She moved toward it. Smoke. Very little, but enough. Her heart dropped. The temporary stabilization she'd made was failing. Sophia shut down the remaining system. Rocco opened the compartment. Smoke drifted upward. Sophia examined the engine. Her face tightened. There, another damaged component. She hadn't seen it before. Someone had damaged more than one section. This wasn't simply meant to stop the boat. It was meant to prevent them from repairing it. Sophia sat back. "We can't fix this out here." Rocco nodded. The boat drifted. Darkness surrounded them. Then, Rocco's phone vibrated. 1 bar again. He looked down. A new message. Not from his security team. Not from anyone in his contacts. Unknown number. 5 words. Rocco stared. Sophia saw his expression. "What?" He didn't answer. He turned the phone toward her. Sophia read it. "You should have stayed home." Her blood ran cold. She looked at Rocco, then at the darkness. Someone knew where they were. Someone knew Sophia was with him. And someone had just told her, this wasn't supposed to happen. Rocco slipped the phone into his pocket. The calm amusement from earlier was completely gone. He stepped closer. "Stay beside me." Sophia nodded. For once, she didn't make a joke. Because she finally understood. The lake wasn't empty. The darkness wasn't empty. And their little midnight escape hadn't been an escape at all. It had been the opening move in something much bigger. Someone had planned for Rocco Valenti to disappear. Someone had prepared his boat. Someone had disabled his communication. Someone had removed the emergency equipment. Someone had been waiting for the engine to fail. And now, someone knew Sophia Hayes was standing beside him. The woman who had only wanted 10 quiet minutes on the water had unknowingly stepped into a war. And somewhere beyond the darkness, the person who had planned it was already changing the plan. Because Rocco Valenti was no longer alone. And that changed everything. For several seconds after the message disappeared from Rocco's screen, neither of them moved. The lake continued its slow rhythm against the hull. The wind passed over the water. Somewhere in the distance, a bird called once, then went silent. Sophia stood beside Rocco, with her arms folded tightly across herself. She wasn't shaking, not exactly, but she could feel every beat of her heart. The strange thing was, she wasn't thinking about herself anymore. She was thinking about the message. You should have stayed home. It wasn't simply a threat. It was personal. Whoever had sent it knew she was there. Which meant somebody had been watching them long enough to know that the original plan had changed. Sophia looked toward the darkness. Nothing. No boat, no light, no movement. That almost made it worse. Because when danger announced itself, at least you knew where to look. Rocco remained perfectly still. His eyes moved across the lake, slowly, methodically. He wasn't searching for the person who had sent the message. He was searching for patterns, a reflection, a ripple, a light where there shouldn't be one. Anything. Sophia finally broke the silence. "Is this the part where you tell me I should have stayed home?" Rocco looked at her. For the first time since reading the message, something almost human returned to his expression. "No." Sophia waited. "I think that advice is slightly late." She stared at him. Then, despite everything, a tiny laugh escaped her. It surprised both of them. Sophia shook her head. "That's your idea of comforting me." "No." "Good. I wasn't trying to." She looked at him. "You really are terrible at this." "At what?" "Reassuring people. I don't usually have to." Sophia almost smiled again. Then the sound of an engine reached them, far away. This time, there was no question about it. A boat was approaching. Rocco's expression changed instantly. The amusement disappeared. His shoulders squared. His attention locked onto the approaching sound. Sophia stepped closer. "How many?" "One. You can tell that already." "Listen." She did. One engine. Steady. Coming from the direction of the estate. Sophia exhaled. "Your security?" Probably. Rocco didn't answer. The engine grew louder. A beam of light swept across the lake. Then another. The rescue boat emerged from the darkness. Sophia could see 2 men aboard, both wearing dark clothing. One stood near the front. The other was driving. The boat slowed as it approached. Sophia felt relief. Real relief. It lasted approximately 3 seconds. Rocco raised one hand. The approaching boat stopped. Not beside them. Several yards away. Sophia frowned. Why are they stopping? Rocco didn't answer. One of the men called across the water. Boss. Rocco's gaze hardened. The voice belonged to one of his security men. Sophia recognized him. She had seen him at the estate. He was usually stationed near the main entrance. Rocco remained still. Identify yourself. The man gave his name. Rocco asked another question. The answer came immediately. Correct. Sophia looked at Rocco. They're yours. Yes. Then why are you still looking at them like that? Because they're not alone. Sophia looked again. A third silhouette was barely visible behind the driver. She hadn't noticed him at first. The man was sitting low, hidden. Rocco saw him. So did Sophia now. The security boat moved closer. The third man stood. Sophia's stomach tightened. Rocco's voice dropped. Stay behind me. This time, there was no teasing, no dry humor, no room for argument. Sophia moved. The rescue boat came alongside. The security chief stepped forward. Boss, we were worried. Rocco stared at him. You received my location. Yes. When? The man hesitated. Minutes ago. Rocco's eyes narrowed. Sophia noticed. He hadn't told them that the unknown sender had already known their location. He was testing the man. The security chief didn't seem to realize it. That bothered Sophia. Rocco stepped onto the rescue boat first, then turned toward her. His hand extended. Sophia stared at it for half a second, then took it. His grip closed around hers, firm, steady. He helped her aboard. The moment Sophia stepped onto the rescue boat, she noticed something. The third man. He wasn't dressed like security. He was wearing a maintenance jacket. Sophia looked at him, then at Rocco. Rocco noticed her expression. Who is he? The man answered, before anyone else could. Marine technician. Sophia frowned. You brought a technician. The man nodded. Thought you'd need him. Sophia glanced toward Rocco. He didn't react, but she knew that look now. Something was wrong. The rescue boat began moving toward shore. Sophia sat beside Rocco. She was still holding his jacket sleeve without realizing it. When she noticed, she released it. Rocco looked down, then at her. She pretended not to notice. For several minutes, nobody spoke. The estate lights grew larger. Sophia watched them. She should have felt safe. Instead, the closer they got, the more uneasy she became. Because she had spent enough time around Rocco's world tonight to understand one thing. A threat was easier to handle when it was outside. Inside, you had to figure out who to trust. The rescue boat reached the private dock. Several security vehicles were waiting. Men moved quickly. Doors opened. Lights came on. Sophia stepped onto the dock. Her heels clicked against the wood. She almost stumbled. Rocco caught her elbow. She looked at him. I've got it. I know. He released her. Sophia straightened. The event planner had returned. Or at least, she was trying to. Her hair was windblown. Her dress was wrinkled. One heel had somehow disappeared during the chaos. She looked down, then at Rocco. My shoe. Rocco looked at the remaining heel, then at the lake. Sophia sighed. Don't. I wasn't going to say anything.
You were. I was thinking it.
She pointed at him. That's worse. For the first time that night, Rocco actually smiled. It lasted only a second. Then his attention moved toward the estate. The doors were open. Security was everywhere. Something had changed. Sophia could feel it. The gala was over. The music had stopped. The guests were gone. The mansion that had looked glamorous earlier now looked like a fortress. Rocco began walking. Sophia followed. Inside, the atmosphere was completely different. Men were speaking quietly into earpieces. Phones were ringing. Security personnel were moving between rooms. The ballroom had been cleared. The beautiful decorations remained, but the celebration was gone. Sophia looked around. She suddenly felt like she'd stepped into the backstage area of a theater after the audience had disappeared. Everything was still there, but the illusion was gone. Rocco stopped near the entrance. His security chief approached. "Boss." Rocco looked at him. "Lock the estate." The man nodded. "Already done." Rocco's eyes narrowed. "Who authorized that?" The chief hesitated. "I did." "Why?" Standard response. Rocco said nothing. Sophia watched the exchange. Something was wrong. She couldn't explain what, but the chief's answer had come too quickly. Rocco turned toward her. "Go upstairs." Sophia blinked. "What?" "Get some rest." She stared at him. "After tonight?" "Yes." "You honestly think I'm going upstairs and sleeping?" "I think you're exhausted." "I was exhausted before someone tried to turn your boat into a floating coffin." Rocco's expression hardened. Sophia realized the joke had gone too far. She lowered her voice. "I'm sorry." Rocco studied her. Then his expression softened. "Stay close to the main house." Sophia nodded. She began walking away, then stopped. She turned. "Rocco." He looked at her. She hesitated. "Be careful who you trust." Something shifted in his eyes. He understood. Sophia walked away. But she didn't go upstairs. Instead, she stopped near the corridor, overlooking the ballroom. She watched Rocco disappear through another doorway with his security chief. Then she looked toward the terrace. Her mind returned to the boat, the damaged engine, the missing equipment, the strange rescue. And something kept bothering her. She couldn't explain it. Not yet. But she'd learned something from her father years ago. When something didn't make sense, you didn't force an answer. You waited. You listened. You watched. And eventually, something always revealed itself. Sophia looked toward the dark windows. Outside, the lake was still. Inside, the game had just begun. The next morning, Sophia woke to sunlight pouring through the curtains. For several seconds, she didn't remember where she was. Then she saw the unfamiliar ceiling, the luxurious room, her dress hanging over a chair, and the missing shoe sitting on the floor beside the bed. She remembered everything. Sophia sat up. "Oh, that's unfortunate." She rubbed her face. She had apparently slept for 5 hours, which was impressive considering she'd spent most of the night stranded on a lake with a Mafia boss and an unknown enemy. She got dressed quickly. By the time she reached the main floor, the estate was already awake. Security personnel stood near every entrance. The atmosphere remained tense. Sophia walked into the kitchen. She expected coffee. What she found instead was Rocco, already there, alone, reading something on a tablet. He looked up. "You're alive." Sophia stopped. "Were you taking bets?" "No." "Good." He returned to the tablet. Sophia poured herself coffee. She took one sip, then looked at him. "You're staring." "I know." "Why?" "You're wearing one shoe." Sophia looked down. She had completely forgotten. She stared at her feet, then closed her eyes. "Oh, come on." Rocco's mouth twitched. Sophia pointed at him. "Don't!" "I didn't say anything." "You're thinking loudly." "I wasn't aware that was possible." "It is when you're you." He almost smiled. The humor helped. But only for a moment. Rocco put the tablet down. "The investigators are here." Sophia's expression changed. "What did they find?" "Enough." That answer was deliberately vague. Sophia knew him better now. He was withholding something. "What aren't you telling me?" Rocco studied her. "You're observant. Occupational hazard." He leaned back. The boat wasn't the only thing tampered with. Sophia's expression hardened. "Where?" "Security systems." She stared. Rocco continued. "Someone accessed the dock cameras yesterday afternoon." Sophia remembered the dock. The security man. "The empty area." She frowned. "Could they have erased the footage?" "They did." "Then how do you know?" "We recovered part of it." Rocco turned the tablet toward her. A grainy image appeared. Someone near the boat, face obscured. Sophia leaned closer. The figure wore a dark jacket, a cap, gloves. She couldn't identify him. Then, Something caught her eye. The figure wasn't standing at the engine. He was holding something. Sophia frowned. What is that? Rocco zoomed in. A small case. Sophia stared. That looks like a toolkit. Yes. Marine? Probably, Sophia thought. That's the same kind of case the technician had last night. Rocco's eyes lifted. Sophia suddenly realized what she'd said. Neither spoke. The room became very quiet. Rocco picked up his phone. Get the technician. The technician was gone. That was the first problem. The second, his name wasn't on the security roster. The third, nobody could find a record of him being hired. Rocco stood in the security office while his men searched through every available record. Sophia stood near the doorway. She hadn't planned to stay. But now, she wasn't leaving. The more she learned, the less comfortable she became. The technician hadn't simply appeared. Someone had brought him. Someone had given him access. And someone had known Rocco would need a marine specialist after the boat was disabled. Sophia looked at Rocco. He wasn't angry. That was almost more frightening. He was calm. Too calm. The kind of calm that meant his mind had already moved several steps ahead. His security chief approached. We're checking every entrance. Rocco looked at him. Check the staff logs. We did. Again. The chief hesitated. Rocco's voice remained quiet. This time, check them properly. The chief left. Sophia watched him go, then looked at Rocco. You don't trust him. Rocco didn't answer. She took that as an answer. Sophia walked toward the security monitors. Can I see the dock footage? Rocco nodded. She studied the screen. Different camera angles. Different timestamps. The footage had gaps. Large ones. Sophia frowned. What happened here? Deleted. I mean before that. Rocco looked at her. Sophia pointed. The security camera covering the dock had shifted slightly. Not enough for anyone to notice, but enough that the camera no longer faced the engine compartment. Sophia leaned closer. Whoever did this knew exactly where the camera pointed. Rocco looked at her. You're sure? Yes. She remembered event cameras, lighting angles, blind spots. She spent her life noticing details most people ignored. This wasn't random, Rocco nodded. Exactly. Sophia looked at another monitor. The camera facing the rear garden showed a person walking toward the dock. The timestamp was partially corrupted, but the figure was visible. Sophia watched, then paused. Go back. Rocco's man rewound. The figure appeared again. Sophia stared. That's Marco! Rocco said nothing. She looked at him. Are you sure? I recognize him. Marco Bellini, one of Rocco's senior men. The same man Sophia remembered seeing near the dock. Her stomach tightened. But that doesn't mean he sabotaged the boat. Rocco looked at her. No. Sophia frowned. You're not accusing him. Not yet. That answer surprised her. Rocco wasn't reckless. He wasn't going to destroy a loyal man's reputation based on a blurry image. Sophia respected that. The footage continued. Marco approached the dock. He stood beside the boat. Then another figure appeared. Sophia leaned closer. Someone else. The second figure handed Marco something. Marco took it. The screen flickered, then went black. Sophia stared. That's it? Yes. Convenient. Rocco's eyes narrowed. The footage had been cut exactly where it mattered. Sophia folded her arms. Someone wants you to think Marco did it. Rocco looked at her. That's one possibility. What's the other? Someone wants me to protect him. Sophia paused. That was clever. If the footage was designed to implicate Marco, Rocco might immediately remove him. If Marco was innocent, the real saboteur would have eliminated one of the few people capable of discovering the truth. Sophia looked at Rocco. You're not going to confront him. Not yet. Why? Because whoever did this expects me to. Sophia smiled faintly. That's very Mafia. Rocco looked at her. What does that mean? You always seem to have 3 plans. Usually 4. She laughed. That's worse. For a moment, the tension eased. Then a security alarm sounded. Everyone froze. Rocco's head turned. The alarm came from the boathouse. Sophia's heart dropped. Rocco moved immediately. His men followed. Sophia followed too. Nobody stopped her. They reached the boathouse. The door stood open. Inside, everything looked untouched. Too untouched. Rocco walked in. Sophia followed behind him. The boat maintenance equipment remained neatly arranged. Tools, fuel containers, parts, everything. Then Sophia noticed something. A cabinet door. Open. She walked toward it. Inside, there were marine maintenance records. She picked one up. Rocco looked over. What? This is the service log for your boat. He took it. Sophia flipped through the pages. A signature appeared. She frowned. That isn't the technician's. Rocco looked closer. No. Whose is it? Rocco didn't answer immediately. Then, his face changed. Sophia noticed. Who? Rocco closed the file. Someone who died 2 years ago. Silence. Sophia stared. That was impossible. Unless someone had copied the signature. Someone had accessed old records. Someone had planned this far enough ahead to make the sabotage look legitimate. Rocco looked toward the open door. His voice became quiet. Lock the boathouse. A security man nodded. Then Rocco turned toward Sophia. Go inside. She frowned. Why? Because I don't know what else they've prepared. Sophia looked at him. And you? I'll find out. She hesitated, then noticed something on the floor, a small object. She bent down, a cufflink, black. With a silver insignia, she picked it up. Rocco's eyes immediately focused on it. Sophia held it out. This yours? No. He took it. His expression hardened. Sophia looked at the symbol. She had seen it before, at the gala, on the cuff of a man standing near the western terrace. She couldn't remember his name. But she remembered the insignia. Rocco recognized it too. His eyes became colder. That belongs to the Salvatore family. Sophia looked at him. Enemies? Once. That's not a comforting answer. It wasn't meant to be. The discovery changed the investigation. The attack wasn't simply internal. Someone outside Rocco's organization had reached inside, but they had help, and that meant the real traitor was still somewhere close, very close. That evening, the estate held no dinner, no music, no guests, no laughter. The mansion felt almost abandoned. Sophia sat in the library with a cup of tea. She had been told to stay inside. For once, she actually listened, mostly. Rocco entered several minutes later. He removed his jacket. His expression was exhausted. Sophia looked up. Anything? Yes. She waited. He sat across from her. The Salvatore family has been making moves. Sophia frowned. What kind? Buying property near the lake. She stared. Why? To control access. Sophia understood. If they controlled the surrounding area, they could monitor movement. They could isolate Rocco. The lake wasn't simply a beautiful location. It was strategically important. Rocco leaned forward. They've been planning this for months. Sophia's expression changed. So the gala wasn't the beginning. No, the boat was part of something bigger. Yes, she looked toward the window. The lake was barely visible in the darkness. Then she remembered the unknown message. You should have stayed home. Sophia shivered. Rocco noticed. You should go upstairs. She looked at him. Are you always going to tell me to go upstairs? When you're in danger? I seem to be in danger every time I listen to you. That may be because you keep stealing my property. Sophia smiled. Fair. Rocco stood. Then stopped. He looked at her. For several seconds, neither spoke. Something had changed between them. It wasn't simply attraction anymore. Trust was beginning to appear. Danger had a strange way of revealing people. Sophia had seen Rocco at his most controlled. She had seen him amused, angry, suspicious. But she had also seen the man who'd stood beside her on a dark lake, without once making her feel like she was alone. Rocco had seen Sophia without her professional mask, laughing, driving, frightened, determined. She had entered his world by accident, and somehow, she was becoming difficult to remove from it. Rocco finally spoke. "You should know something." Sophia looked up. "What?" "I don't think the message was meant for me." Her smile disappeared. "You think it was for me?" "Yes." Sophia's heart sank. "Why?" "Because they didn't say you should have stayed there." He paused. "They said home." Sophia stared at him. Home. The word suddenly felt different. Whoever sent that message knew something about her. Something personal. Something beyond the boat. Rocco watched her carefully. "Has anyone contacted you recently?" Sophia shook her head. "No." "Anyone from your past?" "No." "Your father's marina?" Sophia froze. Rocco noticed. She looked down. "My father's marina was sold years ago." "To whom?" "I don't know." Rocco's expression sharpened. Sophia suddenly remembered something. A name. An old name. One she'd heard from her father. A company. A family. A business partner. She couldn't remember enough. But something was returning. Rocco saw the recognition in her face. "What?" Sophia looked at him. "I think—" She stopped. The memory was incomplete. Then her phone rang. Sophia looked at the screen. Unknown number. Her stomach dropped. Rocco moved closer. "Don't answer." Sophia stared at the phone. It rang again, then stopped. A message appeared. She opened it. Only one sentence. "Ask your father what happened at the marina." Sophia's face went pale. Her father had been dead for years. There was no one left to ask, or so she'd believed. She looked at Rocco. For the first time, she wasn't merely frightened. She was confused. Because whoever was behind this didn't simply know about Rocco, they knew about her. And suddenly, the lake wasn't the only place where Sophia's past had come back to find her. Sophia didn't sleep, not that night. She sat in the guest room, with her father's name written on a piece of paper in front of her. She kept staring at it, trying to remember, trying to connect pieces that had been buried for years. Her father had owned a marina. He had worked with several people. He had always been careful. At least, that's what she'd believed. But there had been one period of his life he never discussed. The months before his death. Sophia remembered the arguments, the late-night phone calls, the way he'd sometimes stand outside the marina office, long after everyone else had gone home. She remembered asking him what was wrong. He always said the same thing. Business. At 12, Sophia hadn't understood. Now, she wondered whether she had been too young to see the danger. A knock sounded. Sophia looked up. Rocco stood outside. He didn't enter until she nodded. He carried a file. He placed it on the table. Sophia stared at it. "What is that?" "Your father's marina records." Her heart stopped. "How did you get those?" "I have people who can find things." She gave him a look. "That's unsettling. Usually useful." She opened the file. Old documents, property records, financial statements, maintenance contracts, names, dates. Sophia turned page after page, then stopped. One name appeared repeatedly. Salvatore Maritime Holdings. Her breath caught. She knew that name. She had heard it as a child. Not recently. Not enough to remember clearly. But it was there. Rocco watched her. "Your father did business with them." Sophia nodded slowly. "He never told me. Probably because he didn't want you involved." She turned another page, then another, and found something worse. A transfer agreement. The marina had not simply been sold. It had been transferred after a dispute. Sophia stared at the signature. Her father's. Then, another signature. The same name that appeared on Rocco's intelligence report. Sophia looked up. "They took it." Rocco nodded. "Your father tried to fight the sale. What happened?" "He lost." Sophia's eyes burned. She had spent years believing the marina had been sold because her father couldn't keep it. Because business had failed. Because life had moved on. But the truth was different. Someone had forced him out. And then, her father died. Sophia looked at Rocco. Was his death an accident? Rocco didn't answer immediately. That silence told her enough. What did you find? There was no conclusive evidence. But Rocco looked at the file. There were inconsistencies. Sophia closed her eyes. The room felt smaller. Everything she remembered suddenly looked different. Her father's warnings, his secrecy, the marina, the boat, the water. And now, someone had sabotaged Rocco's boat. Someone had sent her messages. Someone had mentioned her father. It couldn't be coincidence. Sophia stood. I need to go there. Rocco looked at her. Where? The old marina. No. She stared. Rocco. No. You can't tell me no. I can. I'm going. You're not. Sophia folded her arms. You're very controlling. Yes. At least you're honest. Rocco almost smiled, but his expression became serious again. If they're watching you, that's exactly where they'll expect you to go. Sophia stopped. He was right, which was irritating. Very irritating. She sat again, then looked at the file. So what do we do? Rocco looked at her. We make them think we're going there. Sophia's eyes narrowed. You have a plan. Several, of course. The next morning, Rocco announced that Sophia would be leaving the estate. It was deliberate, loud enough for certain people to hear. A driver was assigned. A security team was assigned. The route was discussed. The old marina was mentioned. Sophia played along. She packed a small bag. She complained about being tired. She even made a joke about how she had somehow gone from event planner to witness in a Mafia investigation. Everything was designed to look real. But the actual plan was different. Sophia and Rocco would leave through a private route. A second vehicle would take the public route. The estate would remain under surveillance, and someone would be watching. They didn't have to wait long. The decoy vehicle left. 20 minutes later, a black SUV appeared near the property boundary. Then another. Rocco watched from an upstairs window. Sophia stood beside him. They took the bait. Rocco nodded. The SUVs followed the decoy. Sophia looked at him. So we know someone is watching. Yes, and we know they expected me to go to the marina. Yes, she exhaled. That is deeply creepy. Rocco glanced at her. You're handling it well. I've had a strange week. He looked at her. It's Wednesday. Sophia stared, then laughed. She hadn't realized until that moment, but she genuinely laughed. Rocco watched her. The tension between them softened. For a few seconds, there was no Mafia, no enemy, no dead father, no sabotage, just two people standing by a window, sharing a strange little moment in the middle of a dangerous situation. Then Rocco's phone vibrated. His expression changed. Marco is missing. Sophia's smile disappeared. What? He left the estate an hour ago. Did he know about the decoy? Rocco looked at her. Yes. Sophia's stomach tightened. Then he's either the traitor, she paused, or someone wants us to think he is. Rocco nodded. Exactly. They found Marco at the old marina, but not where they expected. He was inside the abandoned office, alive, injured, and furious. Sophia entered behind Rocco. Marco looked up. His face hardened. I knew they'd come after me. Rocco didn't lower his guard. You disappeared. I was trying to find the person who betrayed you. Sophia stared. Marco looked at her. You. Sophia blinked. Me? You were never supposed to be on that boat. The room went silent. Marco explained. He had discovered the sabotage before the gala. He had gone to investigate, but someone had erased the camera footage. Then, he had been followed. He hadn't been able to warn Rocco. When the boat disappeared, he realized the trap had been activated. He had tried to find the saboteur. Instead, he'd been attacked. Sophia looked at Rocco. So Marco wasn't involved. No. Marco reached into his jacket, pulled out a photograph. He placed it on the desk. Sophia looked. Her breath caught. The photograph showed her father, standing outside the marina. Beside him was a younger man. Sophia recognized him immediately. Rocco did too. The man was the father of the current Salvatore boss. But there was something else. In the background was a young boy. Sophia stared. She knew that face. Not from the present, from childhood. She remembered him. A boy who had visited the marina. A boy her father had once trusted. A boy who had disappeared after the marina was taken. Sophia looked at Rocco. "Who is he?" Rocco's expression became unreadable. He knew. The truth had finally surfaced. The mastermind wasn't simply attacking Rocco. He had been using Sophia's family history to get close. The old marina dispute had never ended. It had simply gone underground. And Sophia had unknowingly inherited the unfinished battle. That night, Rocco confronted the Salvatore family, not with an army, not with chaos, with information. The photograph, the financial records, the forged service documents, the sabotaged boat, the missing technician, the messages, everything. The Salvatore operation began collapsing before they realized how much Rocco knew. Their men were arrested. Their accounts were frozen. Their properties were seized through legal channels. And the traitor inside Rocco's organization was exposed. It wasn't Marco. It wasn't the security chief. It was someone lower. Someone who had been quietly feeding information to the enemy for months. The same person who had arranged the fake technician. The same person who had moved the boat. The same person who had given the enemy access to the security system. The entire plan had depended on one thing: Rocco taking his boat alone. But Sophia had ruined that plan by doing something so ridiculous, so impulsive, so completely her, that she had accidentally become the one variable nobody had accounted for. She had stolen the boat. She had noticed the engine problem. She had recognized the sabotage. She had helped expose the trap. And in doing so, she had forced the enemy to reveal themselves. Several days later, the estate finally became quiet again. No guards running through corridors, no emergency calls, no investigators, no mysterious messages. Sophia stood at the private dock. The lake looked exactly as it had that night. Calm, beautiful, almost innocent. Rocco walked toward her. She heard his footsteps. She didn't turn. "You know," Sophia said, "I've been thinking. That sounds dangerous." She smiled. "I'm considering forgiving you." "For what?" "For letting me believe I was stealing your boat." Rocco stopped beside her. "You were stealing my boat." Sophia turned. "I prefer borrowing. Without permission. Details." He looked at her. She smiled. For a moment, neither spoke. Then Rocco handed her something. Keys. Sophia stared. "What are these?" "The boat." She looked toward the lake, then back at him. "You're giving me your boat?" "You seem to like it." Sophia laughed. "You're serious?" "Yes." She looked down at the keys, then back at him. "Why?" Rocco's expression softened. "Because the first time you took it," he paused, "you looked happy." Sophia's smile faded into something warmer. She hadn't expected that answer. Rocco continued, "And I don't think I've ever seen you that happy before." Sophia looked at the water. Her father's memory returned. The old marina, the little boat, the girl she had been. For years, she had believed that part of herself had disappeared with her father. But perhaps it hadn't. Perhaps she'd simply been waiting for the right moment to find it again. She turned toward Rocco. "You know this means I'm going to drive it." "I assumed. And I'm not letting you complain about my speed." "I may complain." "You can't. I own the boat." Sophia smiled. "Not anymore." Rocco raised an eyebrow. She held up the keys. "Remember." For once, Rocco had no immediate answer. Sophia stepped onto the dock, then stopped. She looked back at him. "Coming?" Rocco followed. They stepped onto the boat. Sophia took the helm, her fingers wrapped around the wheel. The same feeling returned. Freedom. But this time, there was no grief attached to it. No stolen moment. No fear. No hidden enemy waiting in the darkness. She started the engine. It roared to life. Sophia smiled. Rocco sat beside her. She looked at him. You know. He glanced over. I think you owe me a lesson. Sophia raised an eyebrow. A lesson? Yes. On driving. Rocco's mouth curved slightly. On not stealing my boat. Sophia laughed. That lesson is going to take a long time. She pushed the throttle forward. The boat surged across the lake. Rocco looked at her. Sophia laughed into the wind. And for the first time, the water didn't remind her of what she'd lost. It reminded her of what she'd found. Not just the girl she used to be. Not just the freedom she'd forgotten, but a man who had entered her life from behind. With one quiet question. Going somewhere? And somehow, Sophia Hayes had ended up going exactly where she was meant to be. If Rocco and Sophia's story kept you watching until the very end, show some love by hitting the like button and subscribing to Mafia Meets Curves for more powerful Mafia romance stories filled with danger, passion, and unexpected love. And before you go, drop your country or city in the comments. I'd love to see where everyone is watching from.